some of the burnout that's going on. There was a recent statistic: 42% of leaders report feeling burned out. McKinsey reported that in 2024 last year.
Much of the burnout has nothing to do with work or the culture at work. I think they're byproducts of each other. Many people are suffering from what's going on at home, just challenges that exist just by living and being a human being, right? Managing their finances, relationships, from like the work component, the culture component. That doesn't help. That aspect is some people don't have a lot of people to talk to about this, just not like therapy per se, but just to share their challenges with. So you just sit in your cubicle or at your house, at your desk in your house or whatever, and just kind of just grind through Zoom calls, Google Meets, Microsoft Teams, and then go do the work at home and come back. And it's just kind of like this constant cycle. We're not getting as much human interaction that brings joy.
Welcome to Limitless Minds, the podcast where curiosity meets greatness. Each week, co-host DJ Eitzen and Harry Wilson sit down with some of the most exceptional individuals across sports, business, and beyond. From world-class athletes and peak performance coaches to visionary CEOs, entrepreneurs, and influential authors, they dive deep into the stories and strategies that drive extraordinary success. If you're ready to discover what it takes to be truly limitless and push beyond your own limits, you're in the right place.
All right. What's up, Limitless Minds family? Today we're going to talk about strong minds in changing times. And it's just been pretty crazy here lately, Harry. When we talk about this episode, it's, how do leaders and teams and individuals anchor their mindset amidst all the different changes and noise and distractions that are going on out there? We're going to highlight some things that are happening, just in the world, but then also most importantly, like, how are we actually, getting through this? Yeah. And what tools are we using? So it's nuts, man. What's your thoughts right now in these times?
Well, I mean, it's divisive, It's there's a lot of uncertainty, And now listen, I mean, we went through uncertainty during COVID, we went through the uncertainty.
No question.
Pandemic. This is not, in the history of our country or the world, it's not like the first time there's been uncertainty, but I think we're going through a current state of uncertainty and divisiveness and so on and so forth. And so, it's I think that people are just kind of like, it's like the NCAA tournament, survive in advance. You know what I mean? People are like trying to survive in advance, but
right.
I mentioned divisive, like before we even kind of get into some of the nuts and bolts, maybe got some data, we got some things we're going to talk about.
Yes.
I wanted to open up a little debate with you on something that's very divisive or divisive.
Okay.
Is it divisive or divisive? I've heard people.
It's, you know what? I think it's like tomato.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? I think you can, maybe.
What do you say?
I say divisive.
Oh,
okay. but hey, listen, that's kind of how we do it, man. You and I, right? Like,
I mean, you say Vegas, Las Vegas, or
Las
something.
Vegas.
And I'm like that's Las not Vegas. How you say the word.
Yeah, so I don't know if we want to go by what I say, bro.
Yeah, and you said, divisive, divisive. I'll say divisive, but anyway, the question of is it divisive or divisive is divisive. But the divisive conversation I want to have with you before we kind of get into some of this topic is a hot dog a sandwich? Is a hot dog a sandwich? I've had this debate, and this is an age-old debate. Those listeners, that you've probably had this conversation with some buddies or some friends, your girlfriends, your college, roommate, and maybe you haven't. It looks like on DJ's face, he may not have had this conversation before. Have you never had this conversation before?
I never have.
Wow. Okay.
I never have. Like, yeah. So like, but I'm open.
So
to
here we are posing this question to DJ Eitzen for the first time here on the Limitless Minds podcast, and I'm surprised you at least didn't have already a stance, and I could tell. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Well, first off, we got to shout out to Ana Bellamy in Guatemala. She says it's a taco. So that's what
I mean, we can have that debate as well. But hey, I don't want you to be manipulated by Ana. What's your answer, DJ? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I would say very firmly it's not a sandwich.
Okay. So what's debate like?
Yeah. So in part of it is just because maybe it's because I've never even heard somebody call it a sandwich. So like, so maybe I need to open my thinking around this. I would say though that a hot dog is just a hot dog.
Hot dog.
Like, I mean, that's
Its own,
that's
its own.
like,
Well, let me
yeah,
let
like,
me let me give you my points. And
okay,
so I'm glad you said that because I
yeah,
believe it is a
yeah.
sandwich. I believe it's a sandwich.
Oh,
And
you do? Okay,
I do.
okay.
And so I'm glad you said that it's not, because it gives us something to talk about.
There you go. There we
So,
go.
and unfairly, I'm prepared for this conversation, right? So
No,
I have some notes. I have my talking points. So here's the deal. According to Merriam-Webster dictionary,
okay.
a sandwich is 2 or more slices of bread or a split roll having a filling in between. Okay. Now that's point one. So Merriam-Webster, I mean, like, it's Merriam-Webster, right? I mean, like, she or he or what, they know what they're talking about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay.
So, and then I like that it said that it included split roll, because that's where people get fuzzy, right? They're like, well, oftentimes a hot dog's connected. It's a split roll. Okay. Second point, a hot dog served on a split roll with meat, right? Often with toppings in the middle. So I mean, I think it meets the definition pretty clearly. And then also, what's so funny about this topic is, a meatball sub, a hoagie, oftentimes they're categorized as sandwiches on, like, literally on a menu. They'll be like, sandwiches we offer in a meatball sub, whatever. But like, nobody questions it. Nobody's like, that's not a sandwich, right? It's on a split roll, or that's not a sandwich because, it's a sandwich, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then, I just think that overall, like, listen, it's a from a structural perspective, right?
Wow.
You got bread, you got meat, in between bread.
Yeah.
And it offers toppings.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even cheese on said sandwich, on said hot dog sandwich. I mean, I think the hot dog is actually the piece of meat, right? And then the bread is what makes
you might call it a piece of meat, right? Like, I think
right.
that could be debated.
I don't think that can be debated. No, you probably can't call that a meat, but it's a meat type of substance. You know what I mean?
Right.
Meat-ish. It's meat-ish.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. That's right. No, well, it's so I typed it into Chat GPT because that's where I get all my answers. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And Chat says, that's a great debate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So technically speaking, a hot dog could be considered a sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
It's meat between bread, right? So that's kind of where they start out. But actually, they kind of agree with Anna a little bit here. This says, but culturally, most people put it in its own category, kind of like how tacos aren't called a sandwich, even though they're a similar structure. So Anna was onto something there. So it says, so the real answer is yes by definition, but no by the vibe. Where do you land on it? It says. That's interesting. I just honestly, it's crazy because I've lived 47 years now, and I've never heard somebody call it a sandwich. And I've never heard that debate. I've never, I think it's a great debate. But I think I'm going to stand pretty firm in this. I'm going to go with Anna and just say it's in its own category.
Here's the deal. I've never called it a sandwich other than in the debate, of which, like, so, I don't walk around saying, hey, hand me a sandwich. And you're like, hot dog, nothing makes sense. Right?
Or if somebody said, hey, or if you said you wanted a sandwich, I don't think that's, the first thing that you think of is a hot dog.
But I think that's why it makes an interesting debate, because I think by definition, it qualifies as a sandwich. But like, to your point, nobody calls it. Oh, one more data point for you.
Okay.
I don't know if you know this existed, but the National Hot Dog and Sausage Council. Now this is a pro for the non-sandwich hot dog people.
Right. Okay.
This doesn't help my argument, and that's okay, because I know we have listeners that might be on both sides of the aisle on this, right?
There you go.
So to help those that are on the not sandwich aisle from a hot dog perspective, the National Hot Dog and Sausage Council. Yes, that does exist, by the way.
Yeah, that's it.
As
I'd
declared,
love to know where that's located.
As declared that a hot dog is not a sandwich. So, if there's, I don't know if the National Hot Dog and Sausage Council is able to create legislation around this, or has any.
I wonder if they're looking for a keynote speaker this year. That's what if we could do some research on that. I'd love to.
They did hit us up for a keynote, but
Josh Lifrak to do.
They had to have people. They had wanted those individuals that are doing the keynotes to have a hot dog eating contest.
Oh gosh.
and that didn't.
Oh gosh.
We were concerned about workers' comp. We were concerned about
Yeah, you gotta be. Yeah, you
HR
gotta
got
stay away
involved.
from that, man.
Yeah,
I
so,
agree. I agree. We'll stay far away from that. No, that's it. I appreciate you bringing up that debate, man.
you know,
That's
yeah.
very
Well,
very
I just
healthy.
thought about it because I know we were going to talk about just this the State of the Union, if you will,
Yeah,
and things that are kind of as a result of like just the world being like a wild place, wacky place. Like part of my thinking was just how divisive or divisive
yeah,
it is.
that's right.
And then I was like, what's divisive? Because I just had this conversation. I just had this debate with somebody the other day. Is this conversation around the hot dog being sandwich or not? But
Yeah,
there's more of these, DJ, that I have a feeling, knowing you for over a decade, that
probably gonna see a little different.
you may have, well, maybe, but also that you you've never had a debate around. And so
Well,
maybe at the
we
end of
should.
this podcast, I'll throw out some rapid
I,
fire.
I would.
Yeah,
I would like
I
those.
have some others
I would
of my
definitely like those.
I have some others of my
So so when we think about, switching gears back to, the topic at hand, and just again the changing times, and how much we're being inundated constantly. I went home for lunch, and I just in preparation for this, I turned the TV on and went to the news. And man,
Uh-oh.
it's crazy,
We talking about,
right? Like
talking about tariffs?
yeah, you're talking about tariffs, you're talking about stock market, you're talking about Bitcoin dropping, job losses, trade agreements, all these different things. And it's just, and I was home for 15 minutes, man. And so first off, how are you doing personally with, as you're kind of getting some of this information? I want to just start there, and like, how are you processing it? Even before, how you're handling some of these things, but how
I
are you
mean,
taking it all in?
me, I don't know that I don't know that I've given the news recently the time of day. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I was on my drive to my workout this morning, and I have the little app screen on the dash, right? It's got Google News, right? So occasionally I'll click
Yeah.
on that. I did this morning, and it's just kind of rattling off headlines and stuff. Trump this, Trump that, tariffs this, tariffs that. Stock
Right.
this. And I'm almost kind of numb to it these days. You know what I mean? We've gone
Mm-hmm.
through, I don't know, 4 to 10 years of just kind of a lot of propaganda. You know what I mean? And a lot of just recognizing that, I can turn the TV on and turn it on to what particular outlet, and I'm going to have one set of news, and I turn to the next outlet, and the
Yeah.
news might be the same, but like the response around it and like the analysis around it are different.
Mm,
And so I think that if I do engage with news or media of any sort, I think it's smart for me to kind of like listen to a, not too many, but at least a couple different sources. You know what I mean? If I'm gonna
yeah.
let's just say I'm turn on CNN. It's interesting to kind of go to turn over to Fox News and just kind of just to see just to kind of try to provide myself some perspective of like what might be balanced and what might not be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think
But
that's
the
fair.
concern is that I don't really know when I listen to stuff or see things, headlines, I don't really know if any of it's true.
Right.
I used to kind of
Right.
assume that most of it was true and that there's probably some fuzziness around it. But now it's like it all feels fuzzy or not real. And then maybe there's a little smoke in there so that there's some truth
Mm,
in there somewhere. So it just kind of makes me desensitized to like listening to any news and trusting that the facts that are being presented are actually facts. So I've kind of I'm not going to pretend like I don't. A lot of us will say, "Oh, we don't." I ignore the noise and I don't listen. I don't
yeah.
watch the
Right.
news.
Right.
And I
Right.
do. I try. I try not to listen to too much. Try not to watch too much of it. But when I do, I just don't know if I'm really consuming it because it just seems like blah 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 blah.
Yeah. Man,
Um.
Charlie Brown, right? Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Wah, 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 wah. I don't
Well,
know.
yeah, it's interesting. It's a really good approach, and actually the statistics, one of the stats that we pulled up, the average worker spends 2.5 hours per day just recovering from interruptions. All right, now it's interruptions of a lot of things, but I would guess that a lot of those interruptions happen to be through maybe social media or turn on TV or whatever it is, and then to try to reset, it takes a certain amount of time. So by you not engaging in that way, you're saving yourself some portion of that 2.5 hours, which is it's pretty healthy.
Well, I think also like in those 2.5 hours, I would imagine that part of the recovery is that you are I don't even know if you would call it recovery, but the part of that time, that 2.5 hour time gap between that interruption, that
Hmm.
that notification you get from whatever outlet, right? Or
Yep.
whatever that you were scrolling, you're probably picking up the phone and I'm calling you and be like, yo, did you see the thing about the such and
Did
such?
you see? Right.
Right?
Right.
Then we talk about it and we hash it out or whatever we think,
That's right.
and then we get off the phone and then we kind of, then you're sitting there thinking about it and you're kind of like, okay, where was I? Right.
Right.
Or I send this, I take a snapshot, send it to you, you know,
Mm.
it was,
Yep.
this wasn't news, but just the other day,
Yeah.
LeVar Ball, right? For those that don't know LeVar Ball, he's the father of the Ball brothers from the NBA. What are their names?
Lamar,
Hello,
LaMelo.
and something.
Yeah, something.
Something. But I hadn't seen him in forever. And there was a time period where he was like all over the news and like hyping his son, like basically a campaign manager for his kids. And I guess he did.
That's right.
They all made it to the league. But
LiAngelo. I think that's the
LiAngelo's
rapper. That's the rapper.
Is that his name though? Is that his actual name?
I don't know. Chat.
That's the one that didn't make it, right? Like,
right.
So that's probably not. But I think that. But I saw a picture of him and he had his right leg amputated below the knee, and due to complications with diabetes. So hopefully he's doing well. LeVar, hope you're doing well. Yeah. But I sent that to you, and and we were going back and forth on like, what do you know about him? Like,
it's crazy, right?
So like, it's just having all this access to news digitally stops you in your tracks sometimes.
It does,
and then you're talking about it with people. You're looking for somebody to share it with the virtual or real water cooler, So
well, Brett, so you said something that was really, really good, and talking about trying to find the truth within the news. So if the way you feel right now is that it's hard to do that, how do you stay informed and try to and seek and find the truth versus not getting spun by narratives and all the emotions that are sometimes wrapped up into this to keep you watching whatever news outlet it is or keep you scrolling? How do you personally do that?
I don't know, man. I don't know, like, you try to find people that are credible, have a history of credibility, and listen or watch or whatever those people, and then pull what you can pull out of there. But you're not close enough to, like, you're not in the studio in Atlanta. You're not in the studio in New York or whatever to know if, like, are they is this BS? Like, what's going on? So you can trust what you can trust, and then. But I just think that so much of what's going on too is like the story's still being written. So tariffs, for example, right? I mean, I feel like there's kind of a yo-yo game going on with the tariffs, right?
Yeah.
And it's clearly kind of like a jockeying and positioning thing, just like one as a businessman would do to kind of put pressure and put stuff on somebody's neck until they say uncle, right?
Right.
So that appears to be kind of the approach that President Trump's taking, right? I don't know enough about the situation to say that's right or wrong. So don't nobody come for me, right?
They're coming at you.
I just think that, like, but that just appears to be kind of the simplistic thing that is happening now. But I also think that there's a sense of pressure in the administration to, like, be kind of see what's happening with kind of like the ripple effects of that, right? So I heard something this morning about extended something 90 days, but then there's this, but then they've done this with China, or they've done this with the 10%, whatever it is, right? And so but like, it's like I don't know enough of the facts, and so when I don't know enough of the facts, like, I don't have time, personally, I don't have time to go see them and as they used to say, read the documents, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't really have time for that. So I just have to understand that, like, if there's something I really need to know the facts on, then I need to do the research. If it's not important to me or now or yet, then let it play out.
Yeah.
Try to stay neutral on it, and just like, but like, it's hard to stay neutral when you don't have facts, because neutral is about kind of facts.
It's about having facts, right?
So the only thing you can really do is just, if you don't think you're going to be able to find facts, then you might as well. It's almost like, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. If you don't have anything good to read, then don't read at all. I think that is a fact too. Like, I think there's a couple of facts that have come in that you've said is that we don't know how this is all going to play out right now. Again, if you jump on one news channel, it's going to say it's going to play out a certain way. You jump on the other one, it's going to make you feel a certain way and say it's going to play out the opposite. So I think that there is truth in what you're saying there, is like, we don't know. The other thing is, what I find hard. So for instance, I was on with, on the phone this morning with a decision maker at a major retailer. And, I asked them, how are they doing? And, how is the recent news and all the macroeconomic, things that are going on affecting their business? And she said significantly,
It's like, it's causing a lot of disruption, a lot of distraction. And their leaders are trying to figure out, how to move forward in certain areas without, freezing. It has hurt their business, at least in the short term. And so, so like being informed as far as like what I find a hard balance of, because, our late co-founder, Trevor Moab, would say, don't watch the news at all. Right. And I find it very difficult to do that and still be informed, because I don't want to come off as, uh, not empathetic or not knowledgeable to our customer base. Yeah, but also like trying to find a balance of, how do you stay informed, but also just like, with your customers, but also not go down these negativity rabbit holes. And it is difficult. I also had another customer yesterday, Harry, which was interesting, who does e-commerce. And they were saying that like, it's not as simple as just, okay, we're just going to make it here in the United States. They said, imagine like if you have some of the best, and they deal in clothing, seamstress and all this, the different types of things that come about with clothes. And then you go from that and the intricacies that they've been doing for 40 years to try to just like teach somebody that, in rural America on how to do that. There's a certain amount of ramp up time before they would become an expert. It'd be, they gave the example of like, if the NFL would go on strike and then you just brought all the players in from the CFL or some backup league. And so there is going to be there are going to be ripple effects. But we also know that there's also opportunity, during times like this, in terms of, and I'm not talking about, okay, now let's go out and, buy a bunch of stocks, right? I think you hear some of that like, well, this is a great time to buy. Well, if you have, thousands or millions of dollars to buy stock. So I don't want to come off as disingenuous there. But what I am saying is that once we do find the facts, if the landscape and how the landscape changes, then what do you do as a result of the changing landscape? And I think that's where kind of my mind is going as all these things are happening. How do you understand, try to get as much truth as you can, but also show empathy, because folks are going to be going through it and are going through it, And I think as leaders, we have to be aware of that for sure.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, you mentioned Trev and him saying, don't watch the news. I mean, I think he'd always recommend, like, if you're going to listen to the news, like, listen to BBC, listen to the BBC.
Yep.
I don't know how people feel about that, but I think that, like, I do know that they tend to be reputable and they're publicly funded and certainly have a global reach and also like they don't, and being publicly funded, like they're not paid through commercial advertising, right? Which can sometimes kind of be a part of those biases and whatnot. But yeah, it's hard, man. I mean, I just think that you have to limit it because they're however many degrees away from the truth,
right,
to it, and then sometimes the truth changes as you're discovering what was formerly true.
No question.
The new truth is different, and by the time you get there, it's already too late. So
yeah. What about Harry? How you feel about and what are your thoughts around some of the burnout that's going on? There was a recent statistic: 42% of leaders report feeling burned out. McKinsey reported that in 2024 last year. What's your thoughts around that as you talk to some leaders around the country? And tell me a little bit about that.
One, this is not really, this is more of a rhetorical question. Maybe while we're sitting here, we can pull data, but like, well, first of all, just to clarify, was that 42% of leaders or employees?
That was 42% of leaders.
Okay. So like, but like one thing I'm curious about, and this is in 2024, I'm really curious, like, has that number gone up since whatever, COVID, pre-COVID, last 10 years? How is that? What did that number look like in 2010? Or, what did that number look like in, 2001, whatever, right? How has that changed over the last 20 years? Or has it been kind of, if we pull people in 2003, were they saying the same thing? I don't know, right? Like my hypothesis would be that that's gone up, right? And so that's that question. And then also, similar to that data, there's similar studies that are showing that, because you mentioned leaders, and I just want to kind of take a pause for like people who aren't leading and that are individual contributors. Gallup survey revealed that 76% of employees experience burnout at least sometimes, with 28% reporting feeling burned out very often or always. And so just to give people a landscape of like leadership versus kind of like, others that might not carry those
Mm-hmm.
roles,
Yeah.
either way, burnout is high. I think it's, I think, like, listen, work is hard. You know what I mean?
Right.
Cultures, that big word of culture is something that everybody's chasing. Senior leaders, executives often think that the benchmark for their culture is higher than it probably actually is, right?
Mm-hmm.
They only filtered certain information, certain things. So people are kind of always reaching to solve for culture. They usually are trying to solve for it with motivational talks and speakers and authors that come in and talk about culture or talk about behaviors that are going to help the culture. But most companies aren't doing anything on the other side of that to kind of make sure that it becomes a standard of behavior,
Yeah.
over time. And so nothing changes, right? But then I
Yep.
also think that because of some of the things you just talked about relative to just kind of the landscape in our everyday, is that I think a lot of the burnout, much of the burnout has nothing to do with work or the culture at work. I think they're byproducts of each other, but I think that many people are suffering from what's going on at home, just challenges that exist just by living and being a human being, right?
Mm-hmm.
Managing
Mm-hmm.
their finances, relationships with spousal or otherwise, growing family, kids getting to ages that now things are tougher and and having to drive car. And I'm speaking from experience here, like having to figure out with Courtney, my wife, like, so the girl, what are the girls doing after school? Okay, so she's got two field hockey practices. Okay,
Right.
who's taking her? Are we taking her? Are we picking up? Okay, then Nora's got to go over here and for her own field hockey. Okay, and then Maddie's got soccer. Okay, and that's at the Bullet Fields. Okay, so how are we getting them there? And then by the time we do all that, get home, grab dinner. That's probably not healthy for us. It's to bed, but they're going to bed an hour late. Thus, we're going to bed an hour late or 2 hours late because we're trying to have some like QT time, right?
Yep.
And then it's
Yep.
like, and then you look up and you've gotten 4 or 5 hours of sleep, which everybody knows you shouldn't really be living on. And so I
Right.
just think that, like, the world is getting busier and busier.
Mm-hmm.
For those that have kids, and they may have kids that play youth sports. Youth sports are more competitive and like demanding and costly than ever.
Right.
If you're not somebody who has a family yet or planning to have a family, it doesn't mean you have those other set of challenges, right, that exist in your own world, right? And so I think everybody's just kind of dealing with their own challenges. And the last thing I'll say with this, from like the work component and the culture component,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't help that aspect is some people don't have a lot of people to talk to about this. Just not like therapy per se, but just to share their challenges with, because so much of the work we do is remote, and so
Yeah.
the chance I would get to talk to you, obviously on the phone, but like, we're not sitting in the office or post office or going to the pub later and having happy hour or just grabbing dinner or
Mm-hmm.
let's go up the road and have some lunch and chat for an hour. You don't really get those times, right? And so you just sit in your cubicle or at your house, at your desk in your house or whatever, and just kind of just grind through
Yeah.
Zoom calls, Google Meets, Microsoft Teams, and then go do the work at home and come back, and it's just kind of like this constant cycle. So I
Mm-hmm.
just think that we're not getting as many human touch points as we used to. I think certainly that's come back, but because of the new norm, and then the
Yeah.
second new norm, we're not getting as much human interaction that brings joy.
Yeah.
Um,
I think you're hitting on a lot of good stuff. You asked the question around where it was at. Let's see where we go. If you go back a decade and you look at employees,
mhm,
approximately 31% of employees in North America reported experiencing constant but manageable stress,
mhm,
while 35% indicated losing an hour or more a day in productivity due to stress. In 2024, it intensified with 44% of employees feeling burned out at work.
mhm.
So definitely it's increasing. And
What
then
was that the first set of data? What year was that?
that was 2014.
Okay.
So you go back a decade, you
Okay.
come up to now, and then when some of the top things that are causing those types of stress, and you nailed them, it's an always on culture.
Mhm.
That's something like, I mean, when does work start and stop? That's a weird thing, right? For a lot of folks. You mentioned, let's see, there was another one that you had that we talked about major global events, mental health still stigmatized in some workplaces, lack of recovery time, increased workload and expectations. So there's a lot of things that are unclear expectations or lack of purpose. I think, again, that some of the things that you were talking about that happen at lunch or over coffee live, that's where you hear a lot of around, the expectations or kind of what we're all driving to when those
let's talk about an
minimized.
example here. So like,
Yeah.
we have a remote company. We're lucky enough to do these like badass like events live, keynotes, workshops, leadership
Yeah.
summits, all these different things. And so as a result, we have some of our team going out to these things. Obviously the coaches and the talent that goes out and facilitates, but then also us as leaders on the team,
Yeah.
client success, our group will get a chance to meet live. So let's just say we go to Austin, Texas. We're meeting with a great company. Like it's a, I'm talking about a particular event we just went to. I'm not going to say the company name, but like, we got a chance to like take the main stage and then also have like 5 or 6 coaches come in and like, and not only inspire, but give people actionable items and like have them off and running for the year. And like, just awesome. Right. So we get all this human interaction with the clients and the customer. But the cool thing about that too, is that, as a team, we got a chance to have a meal the night before, right? Laugh it
Yep.
up, just catch up, just check in with each other. I think one of the coaches brought her son, which was
It's
cool.
really cool.
But like between the client engagement and like, doing the work that we do and having that impact, plus being around the
Yeah.
team, like there's no doubt that every time we get a chance to do those, which is pretty often, like you always come away more inspired than you were when you landed the plane and you left the airport. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like it's you always leave there feeling like, man, like validating the work you're doing, validating the people you work with, validating, the opportunities that exist in the future. It's all validating the energy and all bringing joy and gratitude. Right. And so, I think part of that is because we get a chance to wrap our arms around each other and experience each other and experience, and again, experience our customers and
Yeah.
clients. And so, if we never imagine if we never got a chance, like imagine we never got a chance to get live together. Like let's just say it was always like this. It was always virtual. It would certainly kind of like be like a slow leak in a balloon. You know what I mean?
Agreed. I mean, I think as humans, we're made to connect, more so than just through virtual means. I think that's why we see the thirst of, when people get together live, whether it's our internal team or the teams that we're impacting. I mean, there is a certain energy that cannot be like found over a Zoom call. It just doesn't exist like that. And so to recognize that and then try to find the opportunities, I think is really, really important in this environment. The other thing is too, I thought a lot about this, and I'm sure there's some research out there, and I'll challenge myself to look into it after this. But you hear about how your phones and social media, how it affects your dopamine levels and serotonin levels, and how you get those quick kind of hits of joy or whatever when you're engaging. I wonder what that does when you come off that high, right, of going on social media, and then you get back into the monotony and the work that you do. And a lot of the work that we do is, it is monotonous. You have to be disciplined, you have to be consistent. But like that delta, that change, I would love if anybody could send articles or any kind of research that around that. Has that impacted our minds? Has that impacted our how we engage at work, how we feel at work? Most importantly, I'm wondering what research has been done around that. So
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I would say it's out there. Maybe we save that for like a following
no
episode,
doubt.
right? And do some research. But I think that it's, I mean, just from experience, I mean, it's a thief of productivity,
Mm-hmm.
that's for sure. So like, let's just say I am, I'm doom scrolling and just kind of vegging out on whatever on
Yeah.
social media. You're like, okay, now I got some calls, I got some work, I can put that together. But then like, it's almost like, it's almost like a sweet tooth. It's almost like sugar, like a sugar craving. Like you're kind of like, if I have like, when I know for me, like in the mornings, if I eat something that's not, kind of high protein, high fats, high fiber, my cravings go up in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it's kind of something similar to me where it's like, if I engage with social media earlier in the day, I'm more inclined to return to it throughout my day.
Yeah.
than I am if I abstain from social media throughout the day. I fast from it, right, throughout the day. Then I'm less likely to go to it at all. But B, if I do, I'm just going to it in moderation later in the day,
Mhm.
right? So it's I don't know. Again, I'd be curious to learn some science around that and understand studies. But like, if I engage in social media earlier in the day, I'm more inclined to engage with the rest of the day. If I hold it, if I fast from it, if I abstain from it throughout the kind of my
Yeah.
my typical work day, by the time I get to the evening, I don't have as much time to engage
Yeah.
in it, right? So it's like, it is like fasting. It's like, hey, that's one piece of it. Is like, if I have this eating window of 6 hours, just by math, I'm typically eating less
Right.
calories,
Right.
right? In that first meal. But in this case, like we talk about being in a deficit, like a calorie deficit in nutrition. Well, the negativity deficit is important from our mindset and peak performance perspective. And so if social media and news is carrying quite a bit of negativity or comparison or whatever, then I should probably be at a negativity and comparison deficit if those things aren't good
Yeah.
for me. Right. So to create that deficit, like you create a window where it's like, hey, from the morning till I don't open my, I'm not saying I do this because I would be lying to you if I said I do this well or if I do it at all. But, so because sometimes I do it well on accident, or like it's just because it's so busy. I haven't been on social media. But like if it's not busy, then it's kind of like, let me just
Yeah.
pull up the gram, let me pull up, let me just see what's going on. Let me see what people talking about. And then I just notice that I'm using it
Right.
more later. So I just think if I was really being optimal, I'd be like, I do not, I would love to say I do not do social
Yeah.
media before 6 p.m. and then only give myself from 6 to 7 or whatever,
Mm.
to enjoy it. But I think that's just something that I need to practice what I preach there.
Well,
But I think that it's something that we could all kind of
yeah, and
consider.
I think that, like, honestly, it's such uncharted waters right now in terms of, like, how much is enough, how much is too much, like what's the right balance of it? Because you find yourself, there's times you need to be on social media, right, for your business, for your work. But there's also times, like you just mentioned, where I'm bored and now I'm just doom scrolling, right? Like that, so there's a certain amount of that. The other thing is, I mean, because there's a lot of utilities, that you can look at in your phone. As you were talking, I was like, I wonder what a healthy amount of, I think there's one of them that's in there. It's called pickups. How many times do you just actually pick the phone up, right? Like, uh, and look at it. And, what's a healthy amount over the course of a day? But I don't know what the actual right balance is. I mean, I think that's something that, and again, maybe that's a future show. We get an expert on here that tells us that. I just know, and I'm like you, where if I'm on my phone too much or I'm on it too early, I do feel a certain way. It doesn't feel great. It feels very much like the analogy you gave, where you have some, a candy bar, some ice cream. You feel good for that moment, and then you feel like, oh man, my stomach hurts. If you eat too much. And so I think that's the same way with the phone for sure, no doubt. Uh, um,
Yeah.
so Harry, with all the things that are going on in the world as we close here, any for whether it's a leader or an employee, anyone that's listening, what are some of the things that you can do besides some of the things we mentioned? Is there anything you would add or reinforce doing that'll help you stay focused, stay on point, during times like these?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think if anybody who's been listening and following this minds, this may feel like repetitive. But regardless, a good reminder.
Hmm.
I think that gratitude is a great tool, right? Because for in many cases, not all things are bad, not all
That's
things
right.
are going wrong, not all things are uncertain, right? And so, kind of doing an inventory regularly. Some people daily, some people it's weekly,
Hmm.
some people it's when they need to. PRN,
Yeah,
as we
that's right.
say,
That's right.
and we just say in pharma, PRN. It could be BID. It could be twice a day if you want to.
TID
Like, yeah,
3 times a
that's right.
day.
QD. Let's just keep going. Um, but like just finding opportunities to check in
Yeah.
on the things that you can find joy in and that you're grateful for,
Mhm.
and because usually that's kind of a nice reset. 'Cause I know that I think reset and refocus kind of drills are good, and it can come in different ways. Um, but I think that that's a good way to kind of pause for a second and and especially in the
Yeah,
moment when you're just like, like there's a lot of overwhelm here, like
I like that.
and I've been through that. I've been through that a lot over the last 18 months, like just feeling like, oh, things are overwhelming or things are getting hard or things are,
Mhm.
I'm not sure if I know what I'm doing next and whatever it might be. And I've shared this with you and some of the folks on the team, like just just kind of been on this constant quest for like joy more often. You know what I mean? Not that it's not present in my life. It's just like, I'd love to just experience joy every day, every hour of every day. It'd be great, right? I mean, like, who doesn't want
That's right.
that? And so, but so I'd like to be, more optimistic. I'd love to have more joy. I'd love to, feel like, my internal locus of control is on the positive side, where I feel like, my behaviors, the things that I do, the things that I try, the decisions I make, are creating outcomes for me, not some external thing, not some luck, not some like, not destiny, not,
Right.
all these different things. Right. But
Yeah.
and then you kind of marry that with faith, for those that have some source of faith. I mean, I think that's helpful as well. But
I like that.
so,
No,
yeah,
I like that. I mean,
yeah.
I think I'm glad you brought up gratitude, because I think that just the simple fact that we bring up this topic around all the uncertainty and things that are going on in the news, but like, not everything's bad, right? You feed your focus,
Mhm.
you starve your distraction. What do you have? What are you grateful for? Whether it's your family, are you optimistic? Do you have faith? Do you look forward to what's ahead? And those are really two really awesome things that I think help any person that's trying to live and operate in today's society. The other thing, as you were talking, Harry, and you were saying, these moments where you feel engaged, where you found joy, when you're connected with people. I think the more intentional we are, and blocking those things out in a day, putting them in the calendar, making sure that they happen, and building out processes to be able to, make sure that we are connecting with people in a way that's just not, hey, we got this work thing to do, so let's go ahead and do it. I mean, and part of it might be work, but also, how do you just go grab a cup of coffee with somebody that you've been putting off and haven't done it? How do you have a virtual coffee, or just interaction with, no strings attached? We're going to talk about life. We're just going to check in on each other. Those things, I think the intentionality behind those things, I think, are really, really helpful. So that's some advice I'd give the listeners too, as well. So,
Love that,
all
man.
good.
Love,
Well,
yeah.
listen, man, as we close here again.
Before
Yeah.
don't close
Okay.
yet.
Oh,
Don't close
okay.
yet.
Oh, that's right. We got some. Go ahead.
I'm gonna do some rapid fire, like random things
Love
that
it.
I feel like maybe nobody's ever asked DJ before. Maybe they have. So I'm not just the types of questions, like the hot dog is a hot dog and sandwich, that certainly we haven't had a
That's
discussion
it.
about, and some of these you might not have had this debate on. So some of these are top of my dome.
Mm,
So here we go. So this is kind of very similar to the hot dog sandwich thing. Is a cereal a soup?
no. No.
What defines soup? What defines soup?
Not hot water and or hot milk and stuff. I mean,
Well then,
like,
like, so like your typical bowl of cereal. So you have a bowl of
yeah,
Cheerios.
yeah, yeah.
Why is it not soup? Why is it not soup?
Yeah, I don't know. Why is it soup? I don't know. I would say no.
Yeah. So I'd probably lean on the no side, but this is a debate that people
Okay.
have, right? Because it has very soupy components, right?
Yeah.
Spoon, like like a liquid of
Okay.
sorts, right? Not all soups are
Right.
brothy. We
That's
know
right.
that, right?
Yeah, they got some. There's some cream.
Some soups are
Yeah.
creamy and like dairy, right? Dairy, milk, etc. Right? And then you typically,
Mhm.
let's see this one. You simply slurp it, soup, right? You know what I mean? It could be hot. It could be hot if it's an oatmeal, but oatmeal, hopefully it's not that soupy. But remember how you make an oatmeal, and have you ever said this when you made oatmeal? Man, it's like, this is soupy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You said that?
yeah.
You ever said that?
That's
You ever said
sure.
this thing?
Yeah,
This oatmeal is
yeah.
soupy?
That's right.
Oatmeal's cereal. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So let's just put that out
Interesting.
there,
Well, let me ask
listeners.
you. Let me ask you. Have you ever had, just personally? Have you ever had, when you ran out of milk? Have you had cereal with water? You ever done that?
No, I mean,
Okay.
no. I can't say no.
I've
Maybe
thought
when I was
about
a
it. I
kid,
thought about it, like when I was a
but
kid. I thought about
I
it.
know people. I know people do. I know people have and
Okay.
do. Like, you know what I
Okay.
mean? Because, like, yeah, you have the
Yeah. Like,
milk.
if you don't have the
Like,
milk, I mean, you got to figure. You got to
yeah.
figure something.
Usually, if I don't have milk, I like, in these days, I'll put the cereal back in the cabinet. But
Right.
like, I know that people We have done that, and we'll do that, and I respect it because you got to do what
All
you
right,
got to
wait, real quick. I got
do.
one for you.
Okay.
Cream
Oh,
of wheat
okay.
or grits?
Oh, well, I'm a grit guy. Between the two,
Hmm.
I'm a grit
Okay.
guy. I'm not heavy on either one, and that's kind of blasphemy here in the Southeast where I live, or where I'm from, and in Louisville, Kentucky, where I live now. Like it's blasphemy to say you
Right,
don't
right,
love
right, right.
grits. You know what I mean? And I don't hate them. I
Yeah.
eat them, but
Yep.
I don't eat them in big
Mhm.
portions. I eat kind of like a little bit. Cream of wheat, not for me. I think the way that cream of wheat tastes good is sugar, and I try not to
Yeah.
put that in the stuff, right? So I'll go
Okay.
grits, cheese grits. Ooh, cheese
Cheese
grits, yeah,
grits are
cheese grits are
fire.
legit.
Yeah, it's funny. I forgot
Um,
about cream of wheat, and some it came up somehow the other day, and I'm like, because I'm a grits guy, and it came up
mhm.
cream of wheat. I'm like, I don't know if my kids have ever had cream of wheat. I don't even think they know what it is.
And honestly, I don't even compare. I'm not sure if I internally consider them apples to
Mm-hmm.
apples. Like I almost consider cream of wheat more of an oatmeal,
Mm,
and then grits more of like
wow.
a. I put grits in the category of you know, like a side. You know what
Okay.
I mean?
Okay.
Of
All
whatever.
right.
Like I've
Right.
never had cream of wheat as a side to my
Yeah.
meal. Like eggs,
Yeah.
bacon,
Yeah.
and cream of
Right.
wheat. Like I almost feel like cream of wheat is like I'm gonna have this for breakfast as like an
Yep.
oatmeal. But
Yep.
I don't know.
Huh.
Maybe I'm. I got another one for
Yep.
you. This is not an either or, but this is just like, how do you feel about
Okay.
this? Pineapple on pizza.
Oh, pineapple on fire. Yes.
Yeah. So so basically the question really is it genius or is it a crime?
Oh, it's genius.
I think it's a crime.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's a crime.
I knew that. I've eaten enough pizza with you that I know that
I think it's a crime.
you're a very traditionalist when it
I don't
comes to
like.
pizza. You're
I'm
not.
not. I don't
Yeah,
like fruit. I don't want fruit
yeah,
on my pizza.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what's next? Cantaloupe?
Nah,
Maybe is that fire?
nah.
What's next? Like,
I don't know.
you know what I mean?
There's
Oranges?
something about
You know,
there's something about pineapple and
and
ham.
ham
Yeah,
is ham
the
and
pork.
ham.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the bacon,
nah,
ham.
it's
Like
not.
there's just something that's really awesome
No,
about that. And
no,
now these pizza
nope,
places are doing the
nope.
hot honey.
No,
Bro,
that's
like,
fire. That's
I
fire.
mean, but that's
That's
what
fire.
I'm looking for with the pineapple. I like the sweetness with yeah.
I just don't like. I just don't. I'm not a big. I don't like. I know some people grill their
Mhm.
pineapple. I don't like my fruit hot.
No, I feel that. I can,
You know what
I
I
got
don't
you
like
on
my food
that.
hot. I don't
Okay.
like. I'm trying to think. I mean, like other than maybe an apple and
Yeah.
apple pie. You know what I mean? Like so, if it's in a
Sweet potato
pie scenario,
pie.
I
Yeah,
could
like,
do that.
yeah, that's right.
That's
Right.
all. But I guess.
Yams,
Well,
candied
here's a good
yams.
question. I get this is might be another carryover. Like pizza as a pie.
Uh-huh.
So maybe I should be thinking about this differently.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting. Okay, I got another one
Yep.
for you. Toilet paper,
Ooh,
over or under?
over.
What do you like? I'm asking you in the
Oh,
Eitzen
yeah, it's
household.
over. It's
Okay.
over.
All
Yeah.
right. Like if you said under, we
Yeah,
were gonna stop
it's
working
over.
together.
And
So
yeah, I think
okay.
that's the way Mrs. Eitzen. Shout out to
All right.
Jessica.
This yeah, yeah. This will be my. I bet you in your house you fold the
We
corners.
don't.
You have like a little piece of you fold. Yeah, they fold. Jess
Gotta
folds
have
it,
it.
makes a little triangle, and has it taped
Yeah.
down. Okay, last one. Okay, let's pose this question. This is kind of like a you know. Okay, so you can only keep one of these things, one of these
Okay.
items. Okay,
Mm,
phone, coffee,
okay.
or music.
Dang. Okay.
Phone, coffee, or music.
Hey,
You can only keep one.
dog. All right. So first off, I've given up coffee now for over 30 days. So that's and I'm gonna tell you,
But why did you give it up? I mean,
for
obviously it's
Lent,
Lent, but
yeah, I gave
that's my point though. Is like in Lent you give up things that you know are
right,
your
right. That's
those are your
right.
thing.
That's right. But I was
So
gonna tell you, like, I didn't realize that first day was miserable, bro. Like it did some things to my GI system. It
mhm.
was like
Yeah,
I didn't realize how
getting funky
yeah,
on the podcast.
yeah, man. I didn't realize how connected I was with coffee. But after giving it up for the last 30 days, I realized life does go on. And so you okay, hold on. So you got coffee?
Phone, coffee, music.
Bro, music is so great. Like like
Yeah.
and
Imagine a world where you never have it again. Like you
yeah,
never
I could
because think
yeah,
about like
yeah,
imagine.
that like
Right?
that's I would probably say the phone. I would say the phone I'd give up. I'd want coffee and music, and I would use my computer to do business. the phone could be the phone like that. And actually, I think doing that, I think I probably would find some things out where and maybe other people would do it too and be like, man, we don't even really need these things anymore, you know. So yeah, I'm giving up the phone.
You can see DJ wandering around looking for payphones, like in the streets, He's gonna be looking for payphones in the streets,
Oh my
like
god.
even at the. Do they still have air the
I,
payphones
you
like in
know,
the air in like
I,
airports and stuff,
you
various
know
places?
what?
Like, I don't
Listen,
know when the last time I've seen one.
whenever we see payphones from now and then when we're traveling, let's take a photo of it and like that. That's the post.
I want to call somebody. I want to call
And maybe
somebody
call
on
somebody.
open
Yeah,
pay.
yeah. I'll
I'm gonna
call you next time
That's
I
what we
see
should
one.
do. That's what we should do.
I'll call you on one.
I'll call you. Let's
Yeah,
start calling
and just
people.
be like, why
Let's
are
start
you
calling
calling me?
people.
First of all,
But I'm really trying to think of the last time last time I saw
Mhm.
one. I don't remember. Like, have they taken them out of places? Or are they still there? Or am I just not paying
Um,
attention?
I think they've taken them out of most places. Now that we've talked about it, we probably will be able to find one. Let's see.
Let's say
Let's
what.
first one to find one.
I bet. Let's see if we can find
Okay,
one. Yeah, first one to find one. $10.
10 bucks,
$10.
$10.
First one to find one.
Venmo. All right, $10
Yeah,
Venmo. First
yeah.
person to find
Bet,
it. All right,
bet,
good stuff. And this
bet.
is this. I'm gonna give any of the parents out there a life hack here. I've recently done this with my kids. Um, if I tell them to do something verbally, it literally goes in one ear and out the other. So if I text them and the same exact thing, they are much more likely to follow the text than they are the verbal kind of I don't want to call it command, right? But like, ask. Uh that and it's really kind of like I didn't realize how much I don't text them on things, but the more I've gravitated towards that, the better relation. It doesn't even have to be about asking them to do something. It's just literally the communication. They communicate better over text. And then if you watch them, they never call their friends. Like everything
No.
is text.
Well, guess
So,
what? Guess what?
life hack.
Guess what? Yeah, get life hack that you're gonna be in trouble with when you have your coffee and your
That's
music.
right. I'm not gonna be able to talk to my kids.
Your kids aren't. You're never hearing from your kids again, and they're not going to listen to a thing you ever said. So just
Yeah,
think about that answer.
might have to. It might have to
Get
be
in trouble.
coffee then, but I'm music is
Yeah.
number one though, man. I don't. I mean, listen, can you imagine a world never hearing Amy Winehouse's beautiful voice again?
I just think
Like,
of all the singers. I mean, Amy Winehouse was a
mean,
beast, but like of all the singers,
I could.
like I just don't know why it's always Amy
It's
Winehouse
always
with you.
Amy Winehouse, man.
Like there's so many
This
singers that are
and there's something
alive, rest
happening.
in peace.
There's
Like,
something happening with Amy Winehouse right now because every coffee shop I go to, she's on. Like it's like I don't know if this generation, the next generation coming up, is loving it, and her music.
I
But
don't.
I'm telling you,
I
man,
haven't.
listen,
I don't
listen.
see. I'm not seeing that
Oh, the
trend.
trend is it's a
I'm not.
huge trend, big,
I'm not seeing the trend.
enormous.
I'm hearing Taylor Swift. I'm
Listen,
hearing Gracie Abrams.
gotta
I'm
listen, man.
hearing, these people. I'm
Sabrina
hearing a lot of
Carpenter.
different Sabrina Carpenter. I'm hearing, there's the kind of the standards
Yeah.
like the superstar. But Amy Winehouse
Listen,
is not on my
it's happened.
radar.
It happened this week. There were 3 coffee shops I went to that had Amy Winehouse playing in the background, to the point to where after the third one, I was like, "Is there something?" I wanted to ask, "Is there something happening
Yeah.
where maybe the coffee shops, maybe they all got the memo, the Amy Winehouse memo?" But
This is what's so interesting about the last kind of question that I asked is phone, coffee, and music. And in the last little minute, you talked about texting your kids because that's the only way they listen to you, and the 3 coffee shops that you were listening to Amy Winehouse in, the 3 coffee shops that you were listening to music.
bro.
So like literally all 3 of those things, I don't know that you could live without because I just talked about those 3 things.
Those 3 things bring me a lot of joy. The phone not as much, but the coffee and music is pretty fantastic, bro.
Yep. Yep.
So,
All right,
good.
peeps. Well, listen, thank you for the listeners. This is just DJ and Harry today. And, more guests coming. Excited to continue to bring you some great content. And remember, you don't have to be sick to get better.